Hi, welcome to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 363. And today's date is May 10th, 2014, and the title of this episode is The Current Economic Collapse News Brief for this Saturday. Now, we understand the government loves to control pretty much everything. Along with the Federal Reserve, they control the creation of money, even though the Federal Reserve is not part of the government, but they do control right now the creation of money. The government also controls what the corporate media says. They tell them what to say, and that is what they always had up until the point where the internet really went mainstream. And when the internet went mainstream, all of a sudden alternative media had an outlet where they can speak about different issues and things going on around the world. And the government did not like this. This was a huge problem. And what they've been trying to do is find a way to control the alternative media, because the alternative media reports on the things they don't want reported on. And Dianne Feinstein does have a bill in Congress trying to rein in who is a journalist and who will be allowed to have free speech. We see the FCC right now is getting on board with net neutrality, where they're allowing companies to pay for faster pipes and other people will be left behind and you'll have slower access. And right now the commissioner at the FCC recently warned in a Wall Street Journal editorial of government plans to monitor media organizations. Now, of course they want to do this because they're trying to control what the American people see and hear. And this is how they're trying to do it. They're trying to pass laws. They're trying to say, you people do not have freedom of speech, and if you want freedom of speech, you will have to get special licenses, and you'll have to abide by these rules and pretty much say what we want you to say. And of course, they're doing this to control pretty much everything. And if we really look about what's going on right now, I mean, let's take the case in Nigeria. It came up with this whole story about sex slaves, kidnapped girls, and they showed a very blurry video. We see Michelle Obama's out there, hashtag bring back the girls. We see people out there picketing with pre-made signs that were printed up way in advance. And we're seeing that these photos are making the rounds all in the corporate media. And what we're finding out is that these girls aren't even from Nigeria. Three of photographs were used to represent the tragedy, but the women in them aren't from Nigeria. They're from Guinea-Bissau, a country more than 2,000 miles from Nigeria, and the photograph were from 2011. And the girl who saw her photograph, I think her friend pinged her on her phone, and she's saying that, she's not Nigerian. This is a big misrepresentation, but they're using this as the campaign. And we can see here the alternative media is pointing this out, and the corporate media is pushing this and pushing this. Michelle Obama is pushing this, and I reported this on in my other reports. We understand why they're doing this. All of a sudden, in this one area, and there's kidnappings going on all over the place, and it's a lot more than 100 or 200 girls. It's happening in almost every single country around the world. And of course, they're pointing out this one particular country because this is the country they want to get U.S. troops into. And this is why this story is really flaring up. And the U.S. government, the Department of Justice, is not going to do much down in this area, except say we need to close the embassies, travel advisory, fighting starting to break out. We're going to push AFRICOM into this area to try to take control. And they're doing this because China is there pumping in millions and millions of dollars into this area to build up the infrastructure. They have a lot of natural resources, and wherever China is in Central Africa, that's where the United States is. But just to point out that this is a problem with them pushing the agenda, and now they're doing it with information that is not true at this time. Now, in Venezuela, we understand that there are a lot of protests, and the United States government would like to remove the government officials in Venezuela. Venezuela has a lot of oil. They would love to take that oil, set up a private Western central bank in that country, and put this oil using on the U.S. dollar as the reserve currency. And right now, they're putting sanctions on certain individuals in Venezuela. And Maduro dismissed the sanctions, saying U.S. lawmakers were fools for passing these measures. The U.S. government wants to sanction us with some stupid measure, Maduro retorted. And again, they're doing this in every single country that has natural resources, where they feel they can get into these countries, prop them up, put the U.S. dollar in as the reserve currency, take over the country, put them into debt, and steal all of their natural resources, and the people end up paying for it. The people go into debt, there's austerity, people find no work, and the situation just gets worse and worse and worse. Look at Greece, look at Cyprus, look at France, look at Spain, look at Italy, now look at Ukraine. It is the same everywhere. So what they're doing really doesn't work. Now, in Ukraine, what we are seeing is that the Ukrainian puppet regime is trying to cut off the water supply to Crimea. They're building dams right now, and there's satellite images showing that they're putting sandbags, trying to cut off the water supply. And right now, the Crimean government is trying to figure out how they can get fresh water into their area, and they're considering an option of drawing water supply from the Kuban River and channeling it through the Strait of Kerch. And I reported this quite a while ago, and I see that this is moving forward now. The dam is being built, water is being blocked off, and again, the United States, the central bankers, the puppet government in Ukraine is going to do everything they possibly can to pretty much try to push their agenda forward as best they possibly can by using violence, by cutting off water, by not paying their gas bill. They're doing everything they possibly can. They're trying to provoke, and we can see they're continuing with this agenda. Now, Ukrainian armed forces are pulling back from the Mariupol center. Ukrainian National Guard units have pulled back from the flashpoint. And what's funny about this, they're reporting that they're pulling back, but they're actually not really pulling back. They're being pushed into another area, and this is where they're having the referendum. Ukrainian security forces are pulling in combat equipment into Lugansk, and this goes on to say that Ukrainian hawks are pulling in military hardware to Lugansk on the eve of the referendum on the status of the Lugansk region. About 30 infantry combat vehicles and 10 armored personnel carriers are approaching the city. Forces are being pulled in from all over the country. So they're really not saying, oh, let's pull back out of Mariupol. What they're doing is they're just maneuvering their tanks, their APC units, the soldiers to a different location of where the referendum is going to be held. Now, it looks like the Donetsk referendum is starting ahead of schedule. The referendum on the status of the declared Donetsk People's Republic, scheduled for the 11th of May, has begun ahead of schedule in 2 districts due to an aggravated situation. And they have about 1,500 polling stations ready to go, and they are ready to move this forward. Now, what's very interesting is Ukraine is claiming right now that they've detained terrorists with 100 pre-marked referendum ballots. And they're saying that they captured these people. They were heavily armed. They had 100,000 pre-marked positive referendum ballots, so we know the election is fixed. They showed these people on the ground with plastic bags on their heads. Now, they said they were heavily armed. They had these ballots. They were terrorists, but there was not one gunshot, and they just captured them all, put them on the ground, and they showed a picture of 2 of them. So this looks like a fake, phony. They were trying to use this to show that, oh, look, this referendum isn't real, and the whole story really does not make sense whatsoever. Now, during this, to the referendum that's coming up tomorrow, there are gunshots being heard around the Slavansk area, And according to the city's self-defense, a checkpoint near Adrikva village, which is close to Slavansk, has come under attack. And this is very close to where they're having the referendum at this point. So you can see they are going to push this agenda forward. They are going to use violence. When I say they, it's the, let's see, CIA, FBI, United States central bankers, the puppet regime in Ukraine are going to use violence against this. They do not want this referendum moving forward. Now, during this referendum, they are not having outside observers come in. They're having reporters there from all over the place. They did not cancel or reject anyone, but no one wanted to come in to oversee the election. And now I don't know if it's because of all the violence that's going on there, but there is some reason why people haven't wanted to come in. But there's about 400 and something outside reporters from all over the place that are overseeing the elections that's going to happen tomorrow. Now the USS Taylor, that is in the Black Sea right now, is being docked at the port in Georgia. And this is to reaffirm the commitment to NATO, and they're keeping the ship there at this point. Okay, now Congress got together this week. The congressional members on Capitol Hill got together, and they were discussing electromagnetic pulse, EMP, attack on our national power grid. And they're saying it would be so devastating that it would knock out pretty much everything at this point, and we would be in a revolution type of state like the TV show. And they're saying that a nuclear strike would pale in comparison to this. And they went on to say that such an event could originate from our sun as a powerful solar discharge, or in the form of what experts call a super EMP bomb. Now, if this bomb was exploded over the center part of the country, it would reach from coast to coast and knock out our electronics, our transformers, and we understand that to replace these transformers, it would take weeks upon weeks to get new ones here, because we just don't have them on hand where we can just replace them, and a lot of electronics would go down. And once this hits, all devices would cease to function at this time. But according to the experts and the congressional members who have been made aware of this threat, this is going to happen at some point in our future. Now, they didn't say that it might happen or it's a high probability. They're saying this is going to happen at some point in our future. And this is their only question, is whether it comes from a natural disaster or a man-made attack. So are we going to get hit by a solar flare? And they're saying from now until a year right now, we're in the height of getting, there's a huge possibility that we could get hit from a solar flare. Or are we going to get hit by some type of nuclear weapon, high-altitude nuclear weapon, being launched by Russia, China, North Korea, Iran, Syria, any country they want to pick. But I don't think Syria has nuclear weapons, so we don't have to worry about that. But what they're saying is it's all those countries that they want to get into war with. That's what they're using for this framework. And we also have to remember, Janet Napolitano told us that not if, but when the grid system goes out. And we have to remember, they had a dry run out in California. They've been practicing with drills. We had the 2003 East Coast blackout, which I do believe was some type of test to see if they could do it, because they planned this way, way in advance. This is nothing new that they just come up with. They know they're going to be doing this type of stuff, and they're going to use it later on. And we can see that this would be a complete disaster. We understand the economy is collapsing. The dollar is losing the reserve status around the world. We have many flashpoints in different regions of the world, and we understand the only way out of this for the central bankers, the United States government, is to start a war. And we can see they are actually doing this all over the world. Now, they don't want it to look like it's coming from them. It can't look like the central bankers, the United States government, started the war. It has to look like another country did it. But they'll provoke until something happens. And if nothing happens, they will use false flag events. And we've been seeing it. We see it at the city council building. We're seeing with the voter ballots, where they're saying that they caught these falsified ballots that were checked for checked to yes that we want to secede from Ukraine, and they captured all these people. So we can see that they've been using these mini false type of flags. Turkey used a false flag. They were secretly having military personnel sneak into Syria. They were going to launch a missile attack back into Turkey to make it look like Syria was attacking them. So we can see how they're continually doing this. This is non-stop. And eventually, their backs will be against the wall. And this is why they're coming out and saying this at this point. This is why they're saying that it's not if, it's just a matter of what's going to happen. Is it going to be natural, or are they going to make it look like it's natural, or are they going to actually make it look like it's coming from a country where we need to get into war? And they know something's coming. They understand this. The power, I do believe, is going to go out at some point. This is why we see the government officials talking about it. This is why we see Janet Napolitano discussing it and telling us not if but when. They are continually bombarding us with this information because they want everyone to understand what is coming. They like to give us little breadcrumbs. They like to feed it to us a little bit. They want us to understand it will be coming from one of these countries, and they're continually doing it over and over. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially, please, be prepared. Thank you.